It started like any other live TV interview. Bright lights flashing, cameras rolling, and the energy of a packed studio buzzing in the air. The audience was excited, whispering among themselves, phones ready to capture any viral moment. The producers had hyped this up all week. Donald Trump, live and unfiltered. Sitting down for what was supposed to be a friendly yet revealing interview, Trump walked onto the stage with his signature confidence, that unmistakable stride. Chin slightly lifted, his grin bold and full of assurance. The crowd erupted in applause. Whether you admired him or not, there was no denying it. The man knew how to command a room. He shook hands with the host, took his seat, and gave a quick wave to the audience. Everything seemed relaxed at first. They laughed about recent events, traded a few jokes about politics, and for a moment, it almost felt like just another TV segment. But then, the tone began to shift. The host, famous for asking sharp, headline-making questions, leaned a little closer. His smile turned into something more mischievous. The conversation slowly drifted away from policies and public life and toward something far more personal. The audience sensed it immediately. The chatter faded. The laughter stopped. The air felt heavier, as if everyone knew what was coming, but couldn't quite believe the host was actually going to say it. And then, with a half-smirk, he asked the question that changed the mood completely. "Mr. Trump, some people say Melania seems distant from the spotlight lately. Is everything okay between you two?" The words hung in the air like static electricity. The audience froze. Even the camera operator seemed to hesitate before zooming in on Trump's face. For a split second, his trademark grin faded. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in surprise, maybe even disappointment. You could almost feel the entire nation watching through their screens, waiting to see what he'd do next. This wasn't about politics anymore. This was personal. And everyone knew that whatever Trump said next would be remembered not just as a headline, but as a defining moment of live television. For a brief moment, Trump didn't say a single word. The room seemed to freeze in time. You could hear the faint hum of the studio lights and the rustle of papers from the crew off camera. Trump adjusted his tie slowly, that small, deliberate movement that signaled he was choosing his words carefully. Then, he looked straight at the host, his expression unreadable, and smiled again. But this wasn't the confident, crowd-pleasing smile people were used to seeing at rallies. No, this was the calm, dangerous kind of smile that said, "You've just made a big mistake." The audience leaned forward in anticipation. Even the host, suddenly aware that he might have crossed a line, tried to keep his composure. Then, in that calm, steady tone Trump often used when he meant business, he finally spoke. "You know," he said slowly, "I've heard a lot of questions in my time. But when you bring my wife into it, that's where I draw the line." The words cut through the silence like a knife. The audience gasped. A few people even started whispering to each other. The camera zoomed in on Trump's face, serious, controlled, but with a spark in his eyes that said he wasn't going to let this slide. The host tried to play it off with a nervous laugh, raising his hands slightly. "Oh, come on, Mr. Trump," he said awkwardly. "People are just curious, that's all. We talk about everyone's families here." But Trump didn't back down, not even for a second. He leaned slightly forward, voice firm but calm. "Curious," he repeated, "or disrespectful? Melania is the most elegant, intelligent, and strong woman I've ever known. She's raised our son beautifully, represented this country with grace, and never once asked for attention. Yet people still try to judge her." There was a pause. Then, suddenly, the audience began to clap, softly at first, then louder, until the studio was filled with applause. The host blinked, caught off guard. He hadn't expected that kind of reaction, or that level of emotion from Trump. What was supposed to be a cheeky question had turned into one of the most powerful, heartfelt moments ever seen on live television. Within just minutes of the interview airing, social media went absolutely wild. Clips of the heated exchange began spreading like wildfire across every platform: Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. The hashtag Trump defends Mela shot straight to the top of trending lists worldwide. Viewers who had been watching live immediately started recording and reposting the moment, adding their own captions and reactions. The internet had found its latest viral clip, and everyone had an opinion. On Twitter, one user wrote, "You can say what you want about Trump, but the man loves his wife. That was pure loyalty on display." Another commented, "That host had it coming. You don't mess with Melania, and you definitely don't do it live on air." TikTok creators wasted no time turning the moment into reaction videos. Some edited dramatic music over Trump's response, slow-motion shots of him saying "that's where I draw the line" echoing in the background. Others reenacted the scene with captions like, "When you defend your queen." Even people who didn't usually side with Trump started to admit this moment showed a different side of him. Not the businessman, not the politician, but the husband. Protective, emotional, human. One viral comment summed it up perfectly. "Forget politics. That was just a man standing up for his wife. Respect." Meanwhile, the host, who was famous for keeping his cool and controlling every interview, suddenly became the topic of discussion. Screenshots of his awkward expression after Trump's remarks spread everywhere. People replayed the moment frame by frame, pointing out the shift from confidence to discomfort. His smirk, once his signature move, had vanished. In its place was a nervous laugh, a quick shuffle of his papers, and a desperate attempt to move on to the next question. But by then, it didn't matter. The internet had already decided who had won the exchange. News outlets started running headlines within the hour. "Trump shuts down host after question about Melania." Viral moment. "Trump defends his wife on live TV, and just like that," a single question meant to stir drama had transformed into one of the most viral, talked about television moments of the year, when the cameras finally stopped rolling and the show cut to a commercial break. The tension in the studio was still thick enough to feel. Crew members whispered to one another, unsure if they had just witnessed a PR disaster or television gold. The host shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly realizing he might have pushed things a little too far, according to several production insiders, who later shared details online. Something interesting happened off camera. As the studio lights dimmed slightly during the break, Trump leaned over toward the host, his voice calm but firm. There was no anger, no shouting, just a simple, serious statement. "You can joke about politics all you want," Trump reportedly said, "but families are off limits. Remember that." Those words hit harder than any Arner comeback. The host, caught off guard, reportedly nodded right away and offered an apology. He muttered something like, "You're right, Mr. Trump. I didn't mean it that way." Trump just gave a short nod and sat back in his chair. The crew members nearby described the moment as ice cold, but respectful. The kind of quiet exchange that said more than 1,000 words. When the show returned from commercial, both men carried on professionally, pretending as if nothing had happened. But everyone watching could sense it. The energy in the room had shifted. Later that evening, the host decided to address the situation publicly. On his social media account, he wrote, "I may have crossed a line today. I respect the Trumps and meant no disrespect to Melania. She has always carried herself with class." That unexpected apology only made the story explode even further. Fans flooded the comments with support for Trump, praising him for staying calm under pressure and defending his wife without losing control. One user wrote, "That's how a real man handles it. No shouting, no insults. Just respect and boundaries." By the next morning, nearly every major outlet had picked up the story. Headlines read, "Trump's unfiltered but heartfelt TV moment goes viral. Trump draws the line, family comes first." What began as a tense interview had now become one of the most talked about and unexpectedly human moments in Trump's television history. While the internet was still buzzing with reactions, debates, and memes about the viral interview, Melania Trump, calm and graceful as always, decided to respond in her own quiet way. She didn't sit down for an interview. She didn't release a statement through her spokesperson. Instead, she let one simple post do all the talking on her official social media page. Melania uploaded a single, beautifully candid photo. It showed her and Donald walking side by side, their hands clasped together as they strolled outdoors. The lighting was warm and natural. No filters, no flashy backdrops. Just the two of them, in a moment of peace. Her caption was only 3 words: "Always by your side." Within minutes, the post began to explode. Millions of likes poured in almost instantly. The comments section flooded with heart emojis, supportive words, and fans from around the world praising the couple. One comment read, "This is how you respond with class, not chaos." Another said she didn't need to say much. That picture said it all. Even major news outlets picked it up, showing the post as a follow-up to Trump's viral TV moment. Analysts called it the perfect silent statement. Social media users started sharing it with caption like, "Power couple energy and actions speak louder than interviews." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But that was the beauty of it. Melania's quiet strength had always been her signature, and this post reminded everyone of that. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Just as the media frenzy was reaching its peak, her message brought the story back to what truly mattered: loyalty, love, and unity. And suddenly the entire narrative shifted. What began as a loaded, personal question on live television had now transformed into a public display of solidarity between two of the most talked-about figures in America. The clip of Trump defending her continued to trend online. But now it carried a new meaning. It wasn't just about a heated exchange or a viral moment. It was about something deeper behind the politics, the spotlight, and the endless headlines. People saw something real: a husband willing to stand up for his wife, and a wife quietly showing the world she stands with him too.